Reggie, one of the things that Paul kind of talks about in the letter is dealing with the issue of the weaker brother, somebody who kind of stumbles over the liberty that other believers have. How should we respond to the weaker brother, and in what ways should we love on them, and in what ways might we need to push them?
Graham, when it comes to the weaker brother and the matter of liberty and the weaker brother's problem with, you're exercising certain kind of liberty, we need to distinguish some things. It's not a question of whether the weaker brother is offended.
Okay.
Paul's concern is when the stronger brother could lead the weaker brother by the stronger brother's example to do something before the weaker brother's conscience is itself free to do that thing. So the stronger brother, the person who feels freedom, has an even greater responsibility. It's not, will my behavior offend? My question is beyond the question of whether what I do might bother somebody. Mm-hmm. That's just really not the question. Okay. Now, there are questions of whether, my behavior offends people. That's just a matter of consideration and love. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of it's really kind of a different question. But when my behavior takes somebody into a place where they could wind up doing what I'm doing, only their conscience the whole time saying, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing this, then I have a responsibility to gauge or to pull back. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that can happen is the weaker brother can come up and say, basically, you're going to offend me, so you can't do it. Or, I just couldn't handle your doing that because then I just might do it, and therefore you can't do it. Mm. It's kind of playing this victim role. Yeah. And there, I need to really listen. I have a good friend who says, whenever you come under attack, you need to listen for the Lord. And sometimes there's a direct correlation with what the attacker is saying, and sometimes it has nothing to do with what the attacker is saying. Mm-hmm. But when that person comes to me, sometimes I really do need to heed. I need to hear this immature cry that would call upon me to say, okay. Sometimes I need to say, you know what? Your problem is that you don't understand what this issue is. Now let's talk about what the Scripture says really we are free to do. Here's one of the areas where I think it's really important to be in fellowship, and especially if in leadership of a church. Mm-hmm. And I've seen situations where church leader boards have found themselves having to respond to people who say, well, we shouldn't be doing X because I'm offended or I'm a weaker, I have a weaker conscience, and even though it might be okay for everybody to do it, the church shouldn't be doing it because I can't do it. And the church leadership, I think, is called upon to pray, really look at Scripture and see if there are some other, deeper principle involved that's not readily on the surface. And if the church leadership together in prayer, in consultation with each other, in submission to the Word, feel like, we can't be held back by this person's saying, the church can't do X because I can't do X. Sometimes they just have to go to him, try to re-educate their conscience, but at some point just say, I'm sorry, but the church just can't be held hostage to that. So community is really important here.
Yeah.